What's up? I'm Ali G, and today it is National Spaghetti Day. So of course, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make some spaghetti. Now, a regular person would grab a bag of spaghetti from their cupboard. But since when have I ever been regular? Instead, we're gonna be making our very own pasta. Now, I've done a lot of research, and by research I mean I spent the afternoon watching videos of other people do it. So we're gonna begin. There aren't many ingredients that you actually need. All you really need is flour and egg to make your own pasta. We're gonna be using a bit of salt and a bit of vegetable oil also to mix into it. We're gonna make the spaghetti and then pair it with some meatballs and garlic French toast. Let's get started. So to actually start making the pasta, every recipe I saw said you pretty much needed flour and eggs. The main one we're gonna be going with said 2 cups of flour. It did warn and say you would need additional flour for rolling the pasta. This doesn't look like that much. So make a little hole in it and then crack the egg. When I saw people doing this online, they were just doing it on the countertop like this, but that actually is going to be terribly messy. So let's move it to a bowl. So while working with this, I'm realizing it's really sticky. A lot stickier than I want it to be. So I'm gonna add a bit more flour. With a bit more of the flour added, it gets a lot easier. Transferred it to the counter so that I can play with it a bit more. Finally, we have it in a nice ball. So what we're gonna do, we are going to wrap it in some cling wrap and we're gonna let it sit at room temperature for about half an hour. Also, spaghetti is never complete without meatballs. Although these may look like it, they are definitely not homemade meatballs. They are our compliments sirloin and our compliments chicken meatballs. These are some leftovers from a party we had on New Year's. The easiest way to cook these, as I wrote on the package, is 400 degrees for 14 to 16 minutes. So if you get a line baking sheet, you can pretty much just line them all on there. Now this is a large amount of meatballs, but that's okay because that means you'll have some leftovers for lunch tomorrow. Thinking ahead. To go along with everything, gonna make some garlic toast. Butter up some bread. And while you're buttering it, you work some garlic into it, and then you put it in the oven and you warm it up. Sometimes when it gets near the end, if you want, you can sprinkle some cheese and put it on broil, but if you just want plain old garlic toast, just butter, garlic, and bread. Now it's been half an hour and we can unwrap the dough. If you're using a machine, you might only have to cut it into halves, but because we're going to be doing it by hand, we are going to cut it into quarters. And start rolling. You want to make sure you still have some of that leftover flour, just so it doesn't stick to the counter or stick to the rolling pin. When you're making pasta, you want it to be so thin. So thin you can almost see through it. Now this might be the thinnest I'm going to be able to get it. So I'm going to even off some of the edges. And I saw this trick where if you fold it a few times, then you can cut it. Obviously, for different types of pasta, you'd want to cut it thinner or thicker. Because we're trying to have spaghetti, I'm trying to cut it as thin as possible. I feel like I should have a bigger knife. Having a little rock back and forth on it is great too, because then you're not applying too much pressure to the one area. Otherwise, you're just going to end up mushing all your layers together. If you're a pro, you're probably a lot quicker at this, but if it's your first time, like it is mine, just take your time. This is kind of a mix between really thin fettuccine linguine, but because it's spaghetti day, it's spaghetti. Now that you have all these, you can unfurl them. If your dough is well floured enough, then this should be easy. If not, and they're sticking, just get a little of the extra flour and dust them. Now that you have all this, you're going to do it for your other balls also. Now for the sauce, we're going to have this marinara style sauce that we got from Costco. It's delicious and it's really thin. Now, when you're having a pasta like spaghetti, it's really thin and you don't want a chunky sauce because the pasta won't be able to grip any of it. When you're having a chunkier sauce, you might want something like penne that can grab onto it. But because the spaghetti is really thin and strand-like, you're going to want something that's really wet also. Now that our water is at a rapid boil, we're going to take our pasta and put it in. Now they say this doesn't take long, and it should only take about 90 seconds, a minute to 90 seconds to cook. I'm just hoping it doesn't all stick together and it actually stays separated. It's a lot of pasta for this little pot, so I hope it can handle it. And it looks like it's all in there. In the meantime, we've got our sauce down here. And it's still heating up. We didn't want to turn it on too high, because then it might start to become too liquidy and boil. But I am going to turn it up a bit, so that it's not cold. According to the timer for the meatballs, it's been about 1 minute. So I'm going to check how it is. Aside from overboiling. It's very hot. Honestly, it's really hard to tell. I'm just going to let it cook for a second longer. Although I was cooking the sauce in this little pot, I'm going to transfer it over into this bigger one so that I can combine it with the pasta. We are also going to take these meatballs out of the oven. It's been about 15 minutes. That's how much they said they needed. If I can, I want to transfer them into this bowl for right now. Now because they're frozen meatballs, they were already cooked and they really just needed to be warmed up and browned. So I'm not too worried about whether they're cooked or not. If they were raw meatballs that were homemade, then I might want to check them. Now using the same pan, but different parchment paper, I'm going to cook the garlic toast. Now you don't need to do garlic toast on a pan, but sometimes I find it a little bit safer. Butter dripping off or anything getting stuck inside your oven. Set a small timer so I don't forget about that. Now, I don't know if it actually works, but a small trick I learned from my roommate when I was in college was to shock the pasta after you cook it when you're rinsing it. Shock it with cold water, that'll stop it from cooking any further. Now that the sauce is all warm and it's bubbling, I'm gonna turn it down and I'm gonna add the pasta. And just mixing it together. Some people put the sauce over top, but I usually find this just to be the easiest overall. I thought this was a lot more liquidy of a sauce, to be honest. When everything is done, you're gonna get a carving knife and plate your pasta. Remember, we have the chicken and the sirloin meatballs. If it feels like something is still missing, it is the bread. I'm gonna take it out and check on it. So we'd already flipped it. It's a bit toasted on each side. Now with the side that has the garlic, I'm gonna sprinkle some of the grated cheese. And then switch the oven to broil. I prefer low broil because I don't always trust myself. And just pop it in for like a minute or a minute and a half. Keep an eye on it. You'll know the garlic bread is ready when the cheese is all melted. So that's how you make your very own homemade pasta for National Spaghetti Day. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down there to see more videos, and have a good night.